Hey guys, it's Ken Maxfield, otherwise known as the Hyde Guy, and I am the owner and president of the Maxfield Report. And here is our recap for the week ending February the 14th, 2020. Of course, the big news that's been dominating all of the talk over the course of the last, say, 3 weeks is the coronavirus or COVID-19 in China. It is basically brought all activity, travel, business to a halt in China. It has made things miserable for not only people involved in the hide trade, but all of commerce across China. As far as what happened this week, Packers entered this week with offer lists that were obviously more populated than the past couple of weeks due to the lack of interest, lack of sales. As far as asking prices, Packers started the week with asking prices unchanged. That in spite of rumblings that they actually were taking less money towards the end of the week prior. As far as interest, keep in mind with about 65% of the world's hides going to China and the majority of those tanneries not even operating, interest was from China was almost nothing to speak of. There were tanners outside of China who were willing to share their ideas, but of course, realizing that they were the only game in town, they were coming at Packers very hard at aggressively low levels. And that said, we heard numerous reports of special offers to those tanners, especially those, and there's not many, that could take large volumes. A lot of rumors as to where prices are trading. We heard numerous instances where people shared that, yes, I did participate, Ken, but we were instructed very clearly not to share prices. So I'm going to say as far as prices are going, you could have multiple prices for the same selection, depending on the packer, depending on the selection, depending on the buyer, when they could take them, how many they could buy. But if you are looking for a guide, I would say prices came off the end of last week, although Packers wouldn't have probably agree with me, $1 to $2. This week, another probably $2 to $3. So over the course of the last 2 weeks, we've lost anywhere from $4 to $6 per piece on most big Packer hide selections. As far as the number of hides sold, popular opinion is, it wasn't great. And unlikely that Packers were able to sell the harvest, and we'll talk about that here in just a couple of minutes. From the cowhide side of the business, same report. Processors have large offer lists, came in trying to hold prices steady. Again, with China not in the market, the buyers who are coming in at drastically lower levels. It's really to a point now, regardless if you're selling Packer hides or cow hides, you're not even talking about price. Your first conversation is, do you have equipment and when can they ship? Once that's established and you give the respective producer an answer they can live with, then you start to discuss price, because right now price is not the most important focus for these guys. It's shipments, because we're continuing to knock at a high level. As far as interest, just like big Packer hides, not enough hides sold. Prices down at least a couple bucks to $3 a selection over the course of the last 2 weeks. Prices down $2 to $4, maybe even $5 on some selections. It's tough. These guys have hides coming at them every single day, every single week. They got to keep them moving. Nobody has a warehouse bigger than to hold 4 or 5 days of their production, so they've got to keep turning and burning. As far as the harvest came in at 620,000, that is down a little bit from last week, which checked in at 631. It is higher, though, than last year at 608. For those you keeping score at home, we are now only trail last year by 13,000 animals, but keep in mind, that's on one less day of harvest. So nuts to nuts, we're actually running ahead of levels of a year ago. By this time next week, we'll probably be even keel with the harvest for last year. And then once we get into the end of the month, we'll start pushing up ahead. Long term, if you remember last year, I was saying numbers are going to be up 1.5%. I think we're going to get up to maybe as much as 1% higher, but I think towards the end of the third quarter, fourth quarter, we might see numbers tighten a little bit where we'll fall behind last year's number. I think net, we're going to be up somewhere between 1/4 to 0.5% for the year. That's my guess. So take it for what it is. As far as the export report this week, It came in higher than the week prior, but the bar was set really low. Wet salted hides, 220,000 rounding up there. Wet blue sales checked in at 90,000, just rounded it down just a smidge there. So, really nothing to write home about. A little over 300,000. That's better than the week prior, which came in at about 240,000, going off the top of my head. Yes, it's better, but end of the story is when you're knocking 600 plus, you're selling 200, 250, 300. It doesn't matter when you're not clearing your production. In fact, a point of reference, and you'd read this in my Friday report if you were a subscriber, the last 3 weeks, we've produced 900,000 more hides than what we've sold. That doesn't count for anything for the domestic soak. You want to, take 75,000 off that number, fine. 825,000 more hides produced than what we've sold. That's been the trend. I don't see how it's going to stop until the Chinese government's able to get their arms around this, coronavirus, and we see it peak, and then we may have a chance of seeing maybe people get back to work, and but it's going to take time for all this to sort out. I know I went kind of long on the U.S. side. We'll try to speed it up a little bit as going around the world. Reports from Europe, they were, mirroring this U.S. market. They were seeing better demand. They were getting better money. They were clearing out some of their unsold inventories. And then, bam, Chinese New Year, the coronavirus. Guys are starting to stack up high just like in the U.S. They're struggling to keep prices steady. They've got underlying pressure. A lot of folks saying they haven't taken it yet, but I think they're going to have to follow the lead of their U.S. suppliers and take less money to keep stuff moving because there's just too many hides being produced for the amount of demand or the amount of people who can buy the hides. Brazil, they're actually, we're trending upward. Fresh hide prices were improving. The packers weren't having to pre-sort. Prices of TR1s were reaching as high as 60 cents a square foot. Things were going okay. Now, their harvest is down a little bit, so that's helping, but they're starting to encounter the same problems that we're encountering globally. So, we'll just have to see there, but I think if anything's going to change there, it's a better chance it goes lower before it goes higher. Our friends from Australia, thank goodness, the fires are under control, but at the expense of, unheard of rains that are flooding the country now. So, it's feast to famine. It's just the circumstances down there are just unbearable. The rains are so heavy, it's actually had some meat works closed. So with the fires, with the floods, there's not as many hides being produced. They were starting to see prices come up a little bit, but now, they're trying to hold it together again. But, a reoccurring theme, they just can't get enough hides sold and probably going to have to take a little off the top there. So just an overall difficult situation. As far as my thoughts for next week, that, my friends, you're going to have to log into the website. Every Friday, I give my forecast for the upcoming week. So if you're not currently a subscriber, check out my website, scroll to the bottom of the page, click on the button offering the free 14-day trial. I don't ask for a credit card. All I want is a legitimate email address, a way to contact you, to follow up with you. Take a look at my report for 14 days. I guarantee you there is not another analyst that has the information I offer. None of the other analysts who are reported on cattle hides have ever sold a cattle hide. Keep that in mind when you're looking at their reports and looking for information, because all they're doing is regurgitating what they're hearing from other people, and they're subject to what they tell them. They don't have the knowledge or the expertise I do. So, little lengthy today, sorry about that, but Ken Maxfield, the Hide Guy, check out my website, www.themaxfieldreport.com, and we'll see you next week.